Greetings, YouTube. I like cephalopods. My wife made me this squid. I have a fancy glass cephalopod. I have fanciful cephalopods, and I even have a startlingly realistic cephalopod, which I purchased specifically to add to my collection because I was reading the book Giant Squid. The Search for the Giant Squid, The Biology and Mythology of the World's Most Elusive Sea Creature by Richard Ellis. Though I have to tell you, I think that the world's most elusive sea creature would be the one we haven't found yet. This book deals with Architeuthis, the giant squid, or the group of creatures that are the giant squid, because there's very likely more than one species. It deals with the history, the mythology, what we know about them, how we've known about it, not only the mythology of the ancient past, but the mythology that's been developed over time about actual squid encounters with human beings. Things that have happened just in the last 100 years, some of them have taken on a myth of their own. For example, we know documented cases of fishermen bringing squid bits back to show researchers, and myths have been generated about those encounters, even though we know they're real. That's kind of fascinating. Of course, it deals with the entire history of the squids as we understand them, both the ones that we consume and the ones that we don't. For example, you can't eat one of these giant squids because they're full of ammonia. In fact, giant squid, when they die, rise. They weigh less than water. They're actually naturally positively buoyant once they're dead. In life, they're much closer to true neutral buoyance. And from what the research I have been able to garner, both from this book and from other things, is that the squid very likely hunts vertically with its tentacles pulled in slightly. And when something, it shoots its tentacles out, grabs the object, and pulls it in. Unfortunately, we've never had a confirmed filming of a giant squid. I've heard rumors recently that someone has gotten footage of a giant squid in the wild, but I have no idea if that's actually going to happen yet. I think that they plan on releasing that information as part of some kind of special or something, if it is actually the truth. But they are a fascinating creature, not the least of which because there are so many of them, and yet we know so little of them. Sperm whales eat a lot of squid. They make up a big part of their diet. And even though there are far fewer sperm whales today than there were at one time, that means there has to be a lot of squid out there. And they're found all over the world in different areas at different times. So we know that they very likely have large migration patterns. I found this book at a used bookstore, and I was like, cool, giant squid. Because, I've always been fascinated by the ocean, even though I have zero desire to ever go under the ocean. I don't much like water I can't see through. If I don't know what's under me, I get really nervous. That's just me. I would not do well in a lot of those sea adventure novels. I would not do well as the member of a whaling ship, so to speak. And of course, a lot of the information we got about squids for a long time was gotten from whaling vessels, from the crews that encountered them in the wild, the crews that encountered the evidence of them on whales, and of course what they cut out of the whales when they cut them up to be processed. They would pull out all kinds of parts of squids, some whole, but most of them they were able to count the number of beaks that were found inside whales, because the beaks would be digested very slowly, if at all. And I think that they have had found a number of whales that had like hundreds of beaks inside their gullets. Just their digestive system, just amazing how many squid they were being consumed on a regular basis. And I find it fascinating that a mammal has evolved with the ability to eat something that is just seeped in ammonia. That's kind of fascinating in and of itself. I don't know how whales do that. But it's a very interesting book. I found it riveting. You would have to have an interest in biology, and you would have to have an interest in giant squid, of course. But I have an interest in both, so this book was very much tailor-made for me. As I said, I happen to have a thing for cephalopods. So if you enjoy biology, of course marine biology would help, and you have a fascination with squid, I recommend that you go out and read this book.